Hey there, everyone. It's Alex here from VG247.com, and I've dragged Kirk onto a little thing with me here to talk a little bit about Nvidia GeForce Now, which is sort of the biggest and most threatening competitor Google Stadia has had to date. Hello, Kirk.
Hello. Yeah, so I don't actually know much about this. All that I know is that you can stream your Steam library. Is that right?
Not just Steam, actually. So basically it's the same stuff as Stadia and Microsoft's Project X Cloud, and the same stuff as we've seen before from stuff like OnLive and Gaikai and PlayStation Now and all that. So it's game streaming, but this is from Nvidia, who obviously make all the high end. Well, not all the high end, but they're the biggest seller of high end graphics cards, stuff like that. And basically, it's them using their hardware up in the cloud to stream high-end PC games down to you. But unlike Stadia, where Google is treating Stadia like its own platform, like you said, this is a service that is actually compatible with your existing game library,
Right.
which is nuts.
Do you use one of Nvidia's high-powered PCs then?
Well, no, you can. So you can play this on your PC. You can play it on your mobile. They're working. There's going to be an app for Google Chromebooks at some point this year, but you can also do uh, it on the Nvidia Shield, which is their sort of Android TV style device that you plug into a TV. And obviously, people know all about Nvidia. They've got their game stream where you're streaming from your own PC. So if you've got your PC in your office, for instance, and you want to play something down in the living room, you might game stream from one to the other. But that's obviously all local. This is basically the same technology, more or less, but deployed on a large scale. So you basically have access to a PC that has high-end NVIDIA graphics cards in it uh, from the cloud. So here's the example, right? If you own an Xbox One and when Cyberpunk comes out, Cyberpunk doesn't run great on the Xbox One, if it's added as one of the games supported by this, you would be able to subscribe and through your PC or through your phone or through an NVIDIA Shield or through a Chromebook, play Cyberpunk as if you had an NVIDIA 2080, RTX
So
2080.
it's like 4K, like max settings we're talking.
Well, not yet, no. So resolution is limited right now, but the example I would give actually for the impressive side of it is that means you could have Cyberpunk with ray tracing without having to pay 400, 500 quid for one of these new graphics cards
Or a new console.
or a new console, which is interesting. But resolution right now is limited. It's mostly 1080p. There are some games that support a little bit above that. But that's a good point that people should know about actually is that, yeah, the resolution is a limited thing.
I guess as well, one advantage Stadia does have, I know it doesn't have many. It's a good service that works well. It's just the library's crap, which is where this is obviously a lot better. But the easy use is one thing that is quite nice about Stadia. You literally just plug a dongle into your telly and then off you go. Whereas with this, I would only be able to use it on my laptop, PC, or phone, right?
You would, yeah, but if you think about it, I don't know how much is a Chromecast 4K. I'm
Uh,
looking that up.
I'm not sure.
If people can hear typing, it's because this is a live recording. Um,
We're professionals,
yeah, so the Chromecast 4K is 70 quid, right?
right?
So right now, Nvidia has an Nvidia Shield model that is 140, 150. So it is double the price. But if Nvidia sort of look to push that out to get some more models of that out, get perhaps a cheaper, more entry level model out, that's a potential. Two, they're obviously doing this app in multiple places. So, like I say, you can download this on your Android phone. So, I've got a Google Pixel. I've been playing it on a Google Pixel much the same way as I did when I tested out Stadia. So, you've got that. And we don't know where that's going to go. But yeah, like you said, the big advantage is that it does pick up your existing Steam, your existing, not just Steam, your existing accounts. So the way it works, I want to explain this, is it's because it's really weird. When you log in, it's not like you log in and then it comes up with all your Steam games or all your Uplay games or whatever. When you log in, you sort of type in a game that you want and then you can add it. So you could type in Witcher and add the second or the third game. And then when you've added that, then when you click to boot it, it will then prompt you to sign into your Steam account to check that you actually own it.
Right.
And then once you've signed in, it will not only know that you own it, but it will pull in your Steam cloud save, stuff like that. So I was able to authenticate my copy of XCOM 2, boot it up, and literally just pick up with a save game from like 6 months ago, the last time I played it.
And I guess you can just plug in any controller and use that with it as well, right?
And yeah, plugged in a 360, sorry, an Xbox One controller, and it worked fine. And to give you an idea, obviously, games still have to be built for this, but to give you an idea, there's well over 100, and I mean, I'm just scrolling down a list here. So there's stuff like there's Ace Combat 7 and the Anno 1800 games and Apex Legends coming off Origin. There's stuff like Ark and Armor and pretty much every Assassin's Creed game. There's all the Batman games. There's every Call of Duty that you'd want, more or less. The whole Borderlands series. There's stuff like for fighting games, which is one of the ways that I tested it, because that's a big,
Yeah.
lag's important, right? They've got Tekken, they've got Soul Calibur, they've got Mortal Kombat 10 and 11, they've got BlazBlue, they've got all the Dark Souls games. They've got some indie stuff as well that I didn't expect to see. So they've got stuff like Cultist Simulator and FTL and games like that, which is nice.
And
They've
how
got
is
stuff
the
like
input lag when you're playing a fighting game?
it's it's fine. Like, it is no better or worse than what Google's doing with Stadia. I've played Mortal Kombat and Doom were my two main games that I tested Stadia with, and so they were the two games that I looked at for this as well, before anything else. And honestly, not an enormous amount of difference in it between the two, but the difference is this is only $5 a month or £5 a month and €4 or €4.50 or something like that. And at least for now, that's the introductory price for the first year. We don't know how high it's going to be after that. I'm sure they're waiting to see how people take to it and how much people enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the input lag is like, it's absolutely fine. You wouldn't want to play online ladders on this in Mortal Kombat, really, because you just get your ass kicked, especially because these are the PC versions of the games, absolutely. So, for instance, if you play first-person shooters and you have problems with sickness, this is another great advantage. A lot of the console versions, so if you go on xCloud, for instance, and you get the console version of a game, a lot of the times they strip out some of the settings, like depth of field, stuff like that.
Yeah. Field
In
of
this,
and stuff.
you can just straight up go in Hitman. I just straight up went into the menus and I was tweaking HDR options and the resolution and all that sort of stuff. You can do all that. It's just the PC version.
You mentioned
Um,
Anno a minute ago. Did you get a chance to try that out? Because that's a pretty like PC heavy game, isn't it? It's only on PC, right?
I
So
haven't, but I did play. I mean, and I know these games do appear on mobile and stuff like that. But I did. I did play Civilization. Um, I did play XCOM, and I did play Tropico. So all of those really are PC first games. Heavy mouse and keyboard
yeah.
control. Um, as with anything, I mean, like I say, I can't iterate enough. These are just the PC versions of the games. So, like, if a game has crap controller support, it's going to have crap controller support in this.
Okay.
But the fact that you can just sort of jump in, you've got your entire libraries there, and the fact that props to the companies that have really embraced this. So it's like Bethesda. Every Bethesda game that I've seen on there, so all the Fallouts, all the Wolfensteins, all have options for both the Bethesda launcher version and the Steam version. Likewise, some games that are on Steam and Epic, like Metro, there's the option for the Steam version and the Epic version. So it's not, like I say, it's not even just like it's Steam. Everything is sort of
So
is sort of
can
supported.
you use GOG and ePlay and EA Access and all that stuff as well?
So the only Origin one right now is Apex. That's the only Origin game that's on the service, but hopefully EA get in on it. I don't think GOG is in it. I haven't seen that, but definitely Epic, definitely UPlay, definitely Steam, definitely Bethesda launcher, and like I say, hopefully more follow.
Cool. It sounds great. How does the price compare though to Stadia? Because you said what was it? This £5 a month was it?
Yeah, so Stadia is, how much is Stadia now? So obviously, right now, when you buy Stadia, you've really got to buy that Premier Edition, haven't you?
It's like an
Well, you don't.
initial investment, isn't it? Right.
It's $130, and that's the Chromecast Ultra controller, and a 3 month subscription. Um, and then the Stadia price monthly is, crikey, how much is that actually? I've forgotten. This is the problem with the fact that Stadia's become so forgettable.
It's not just that, is it? It's the fact that there's so many different services now offering different models, and I mean, there's XCloud as well, which I think if they bundle that with Game Pass, that could be the winner in this race.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it depends on how they operate xCloud when it comes to PC stuff as well. I think that's a big question because the way they've done Game Pass, where there isn't quite parity and stuff between PC and Xbox, is a little bit iffy. I mean, it's better than it was. Um, but obviously, if Game Pass is primarily using Xboxes in the not Game Pass,
XCloud,
xCloud
yeah,
is primarily using Xboxes in the cloud. Does that rule out PC specific? So, will you, for instance, be able to play
you
Age of
will,
Empires
yeah.
via xCloud? So that's the stuff where I'm slightly curious about that. But I've just double checked. So Stadia is $9.99 a month right now. Basically, this falls into two categories. There's actually a free tier. You can only play 1 hour at a time, but I actually think that's quite attractive. So you can log in, you can get this free tier. That's actually, I think, really useful for stuff like free to play games because stuff like Fortnite, for instance, is on this service. So if you wanted to whip out your phone, sync a controller to it, and play console Fortnite, well, PC Fortnite rather than mobile Fortnite on your lunch break, you could do that. If you wanted to just have a 1 hour session or something on your lunch break, you could do that, and that costs you nothing. All you got to do is sign up.
That's good, and it
Um,
lets people try the service as well, right? Because that's something you can't really do with Stadia if you wanted to just try it out. And also, one thing we didn't mention with these cost comparisons is that if you buy Stadia and you pay that initial cost, you pay that double price subscription. You then have to buy full price games on the platform as well. Whereas this, you
Well,
get access.
this is it because this lets you shop around. It lets you, it lets you go and buy Steam keys from the shop if you want to go into your local store and buy a Steam key for Total War Three Kingdoms, right? But it also lets you buy stuff on Steam or buy stuff on UPlay or whatever, buy stuff on the sales. That is just not an option with Stadia. I mean, and again, when we talk about xCloud as well, xCloud at least has an existing ecosystem behind it. So,
Yeah,
all in theory, all those Xbox 360, Xbox Live Arcade games I bought back in the day, theoretically, hopefully, most of them should be there playable. Like when I play xCloud, I want to be able to boot up that 360 port of Perfect Dark and play that on my phone. You know,
yeah.
that's a classic game. I want to have access to that. I own it. It's part of why I like the Xbox ecosystem is the games like that I own. Historically, Stadia doesn't have that. And the thing is, this is just doing the same thing that Stadia has done, but arguably a little bit better.
When we're talking about features that both does the Nvidia one like automatically keep your games up to date? Is it as instant as Stadia is? Because with Stadia, you just like pick a game from a menu and you straight into it. Like, is it the same?
So the answer to that is it more or less is, but I think there's a little bit of teething to be done. So a good example is some games when I booted them, it didn't boot straight into the game. It booted into an interface of a virtual machine with Steam open, and then I had to click play game inside Steam inside that virtual machine to boot the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Almost like almost like the things we have to log into for work. And it's basically sometimes there's barriers like that, but obviously this has only just exited beta. And I think the interesting thing actually is Nvidia clearly views this as an added bonus. They clearly view this as, well, you've got a gaming PC because they're expecting you to have the library to support this. But maybe you go on holiday or you go to work or you want to do stuff in different rooms of the house. This is a way of doing that. However, I think the strange irony is, despite the fact that Google approached it as if they were building an all new service, Nvidia has somehow built a better all new service for somebody to just come into Raw. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think to be honest, it'd be more attractive to me if I had the Nvidia Shield because personally, well, like I sit at work on my PC all day. I've got a decent PC that could play these games in high fidelity anyway. But when I finish
Yeah.
work, I don't want to stay sat at my desk. So, like, I'd probably play more PC games if I could just like put them on my television.
So here's the question. I mean, obviously, I know that you have a high end PC anyway, but we come back to the option of the example of Cyberpunk, right? If in September you have the option of you play Cyberpunk on an Xbox One or a PS4, and You're lucky if you're getting a solid 30 frames a second. But it's running locally, so maybe you are running it at 20. You're not going to be running it at 4K even on an Xbox One X. I shouldn't think, but
Maybe.
maybe you're running it. Yeah, maybe you're running it at like 2K checkerboarded up to 4K or something. But if the option is that, or you could play it through the streaming service, you get it at 60 FPS with very little lag on a wired connection, but you got ray tracing as well. Which would you pick?
I don't know, man, because like convenience is a big factor for me, and like again, I could just play it on my PC if I want to do that, and I'd have to play it on my
Yeah,
PC.
but let's assume you didn't have that 2080 that you've got.
Even if I didn't have that 2080, I'd have the same issue because the only other 4K screen in my house that isn't my television is my monitor.
So I suppose what we're saying is the thing that you'd like to see them do now is get this out onto more devices.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have got smart televisions now. There must be a way of like beaming it into that bad boy. I know I'm not a technical.
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, the Nvidia Shield is. We've got an. I'll pop a link in the description for the people watching the video of the actual Shield hardware because I reviewed it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 2017, when they bought out one of the second version of it, and it's a really good device, but it's quite a powerful game in its own right. It's like a powerful game, powerful little machine. Like it's basically the Nvidia Shield, the Nintendo Switch is based on a less powerful version of the processor that's in the Shield to give you an idea of the amount of processing power that's behind the Shield.
Right.
But clearly, that processing power isn't needed for this streaming service because they've already got it running on phones and they've already committed to putting it on Chromebooks. And I think that's the interesting thing, actually. If you can have a Chromebook laptop and you can plug that into a TV and sync a controller up to it, then you're sort of pushing into this area where it's a bit more interesting. But I definitely think it's the most interesting and unique game streaming platform going. And I know while we've been chatting, you haven't been able to see it in action. But when this is attached to a video, what people have been watching, they will be seeing footage of games like Mortal Kombat, like Soul Calibur, like XCOM, and you will see, yeah, it does just work. And I think although Stadia is definitely a little bit more slick, it is impossible to ignore just how valuable it is to just have all your games there, just with no extra effort at all whatsoever. It's
Yeah. And like you say, it's still in beta, right?
Yeah, well, it's yes and no. So it's been in beta for like 2 years, and so what they've done now is they've opened it up to everyone, but with the admission that this is sort of early. They're calling it the founders stage, right?
Yeah.
Which is why they're charging a cheaper price. So the $5 a month, £5 a month is the price for the first 12 months, and they're not talking about yet what the pricing is going to be like. Similarly, they're not talking about 4K or HDR yet because they're sort of building up to that. But it's as a first start for a service, it's just incredibly impressive. And they're saying, just for the record, they're saying you only need 15 megabytes a second down in terms of speed for 720p 60 fps,
Nice.
and they're saying you only need 25 down for 1080p 60 fps, which is impressive.
And what about the big question, Alex? Do you think streaming like this, in this form, is the future of games? Do you think consoles will be gone after the next gen?
I don't think it will be, but I think it's going to be that thing a lot like it's gonna be a lot like what we've seen in music and stuff like that, which is to say, I have an Amazon Music subscription and I've got endless playlists on Amazon Music and I've got smart speakers and I use my Amazon Music playlists. But I still have well, I'm perhaps more hipstery and nerdy than most, but I still got a record player
Of
and I
course
still
not.
buy stuff that I like. But I still buy stuff that I like on physical media. And I think the same is true. The vast majority of people now are watching stuff on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, on Disney Plus, or they're doing stuff like the Amazon buy it and own it digitally.
Yeah.
However, lots of people are still, when they really love a film, lots of people are still buying the physical media. And I totally think that's where games are going, where, as this technology grows and gets better, it will be the case that a lot of people will try a streaming service. And let me put it to you this way. I think there's a lot of people who are looking towards Final Fantasy VII Remake who haven't played a video game in earnest or haven't played something that isn't just FIFA or Madden
Yeah.
for many, many years. People who remember the original and are like, oh shit, that's coming back. I want to play that, which is great.
I was talking to a taxi driver about that the other day. Actually,
Exactly.
he was talking about he hadn't played a proper Final Fantasy since the PS1 days, and Final Fantasy VII was his favorite. And I was like, "Have you seen the remake?" He was like, "No." I showed him a trailer and blew his mind.
So this is the thing, and that's just one example, right? But I think the thing is, if you tell somebody, if you then say to that taxi driver, and he hasn't played games for years, well, what he says, what do I have to do to play this? And you say, well, you've got to buy a PlayStation, and then you've got to buy a disc, and then you've got to connect, and then you've got to, download a million patches and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Then the inevitable day one patch because that game appears to be coming in hot with the delay and everything. Um,
To
you,
be
you,
fair,
you,
this taxi driver had a PS4 with a copy.
well, yeah,
He
but
had FIFA, like you said.
yeah, well, so he's poised, and I'm sure Square's going to do good business out of people like him. But I think there's a lot of people who just have, they've had kids, they've got busy job, busy lives, and they just don't have time for video games, which is fine. That's how life goes. But I think if you're able to say to people, well, you can try this game, and all you've got to do is boot up a computer or boot up your laptop and go and sign up for this service and get a copy of the game or whatever. That's the beauty of Stadia. And that is the one thing that Stadia got right. All I think is that this is a more compelling version of what they were doing. And Microsoft, I think, is also doing a more compelling version. It's sort of
The
like,
only concern I have with this stuff is that, like, the arse has got to fall out of it eventually, because I've got a Netflix subscription, I've got Amazon Prime, and people have a Spotify account, and they've got VPNs and all sorts, and eventually you get too many bills,
you've got too many subscriptions. Yeah, absolutely. But I
especially
guess
like
that's
with,
why.
sorry, with Ubisoft and EA, and all the publishers are doing their own like subscription services as well now, aren't they?
Well, streaming service and a subscription service are two different things. So what you would hope is when Ubisoft launch their like Game Pass style subscription thing that they announced at E3, or has that launched? I don't know. I
I
remember
think
that
it
being
might.
announced, and I haven't heard anything about it
Square
since.
Enix one hasn't come yet, but I think Ubisoft's one's had like a soft launch or something. Yeah.
But basically, the hope is if you've got a service like Xbox xCloud or Nvidia GeForce Now, if you are subscribed to that Ubisoft service, surely that access to those games would be available on GeForce Now through Games Pass. So in
Yeah.
that sense, and that's where this is that's where this is different to Netflix and stuff. I think is that the problem is I've got a Netflix subscription, I've got an Amazon Prime subscription, and when it comes out in this country, because of certain properties that I love, I'm going to have to get a Disney Plus subscription. So that's free bloody TV subscriptions.
Yeah. You can't do the same
But
games, right?
in theory, the one difference is I think is that those TV subscriptions are in competition with each other, where the game subscriptions have an opportunity to be um, in service of each other.
Yeah, until publishers start doing what television companies do and like locking exclusive account to their subscription services.
Well, this is the challenge. But I think we can only look at what we got now, and it's sort of like GeForce Now. It feels to me like the moment that I first put on the Oculus Quest headset, where I was like, well, I've played a lot of headsets and a lot of ways in which I can experience all this sort of content, all that VR content. But the Quest was the first time where I put it on and went, wow, this is like easy. It's got everything I want. It's simple. It's compatible with everything I want it to be compatible with. And GeForce Now feels like the first time that's happened for me for streaming.
Nice.
Like Stadia was impressive, but it's just, like I say, the concept of buying Assassin's Creed again for 60 quid when you could go and get the Xbox version off Amazon for 16 quid.
Yeah, while also
It's just
paying a subscription on top.
it just makes no sense.
No.
So the fact that they're doing this where the subscription's half the price and it works with all your existing games, the fact that it's going to be supporting ray tracing if you pay the subscription, the ray tracing you don't get that on the free version. But the fact that you've got the ray tracing, it's yeah. And I'll be honest, this technology has always worked. I played through the entirety of Deus Ex Human Revolution for the second time on live. So I did that whole 40-hour game.
You
And
must
it
be the only
worked.
person around, like, in the entire world who did that.
I think part of that's to do with the quality of the game. It was like I started playing it to test on live, and then I was like, "Oh, this is good. This game's great. I'm going to
It is a
continue
great
playing
game.
it again." But
Bring it back.
but they should bring it back. But this technology works, and I definitely think it's now open to everyone. So if you haven't had an opportunity to try it, I encourage you and I encourage everyone just sort of download it on your phone or download the app on your PC. The PC app's really impressive, by the way. It's less than 100 megabytes for like everything you need in order to play all those games, which is mad. But give it a download, give it a go on the free version. If you just need to see the proof, if you've never tried game streaming before and you just want to see the proof of concept, I think this is the best proof of concept we've seen so far, at least in open release, because xCloud is still a closed thing. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about it a bit over some footage as well for people watching the video, just so you could see some of what it looks like. But I'm honestly really, really impressed with it.
Well, I learned stuff, and it sounds pretty good, and I'm looking forward to trying it out myself. Actually,
Yeah, you should definitely give it a go. Just pick something out of your Steam library and pick something with ray tracing. Go and pick Metro and
yes.
go and look at Metro ray traced because it's lovely.
All right, man. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for joining me. If you like this, don't forget to give us a like, give us a subscribe. Please press all the affirmatory buttons that say positive things about us. It does really help us. And we'll be back with more on this and loads of other stuff. We've got some big games coming out soon, and we're going to have some really good videos on them. So stick with us. Till next time, everyone. See ya.
Bye.